The unknown signal. Commander Ilara Voss stood frozen at the command center of the Galactic Confederation flagship Eternal Dawn, her eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the bridge. The vessel's senior staff had fallen silent, their usual chatter replaced by the soft hum of the ship's systems and the rhythmic beeping of the sensor array. "Run the scan again," she ordered, her voice steady despite the tension coiling in her chest. Lieutenant Krell, the ship's Arcturian sensor officer, tapped at the console with his four-fingered hands. His bioluminescent skin pulsed amber with concern as he spoke. "Commander, I've run it 3 times already. The results are the same." "That's impossible," scoffed Admiral Zorik, a hulking Meverin with metallic scales that caught the blue light of the bridge. "No vessel could approach our perimeter without triggering the early warning network." Yet there it was, an unmistakable signal, a ship moving through the void at incredible speed toward Confederation space from an unexplored sector near the galactic core. A sector that, according to all official records, contained nothing but dead worlds and stellar debris. "It's maintaining course directly toward the Xylar system," reported Lieutenant Krell. "Speed is." "Commander, it's traveling at FTL-7. That's beyond our fastest interceptors." Ilara brushed a strand of dark hair from her face, her pale skin reflecting the crimson alert status lights that had automatically activated. 15 years in Confederation service, and she'd never seen anything like this. The unknown vessel wasn't just fast, it was operating on principles their sensors couldn't properly classify. "Distance to intercept?" she asked. "At current velocity, 18 hours to Confederation border." Admiral Zorik's scales rattled, a sign of agitation among his species. "Deploy the 9th Fleet to intercept. Full combat protocols." "Sir," Ilara cautioned, "we don't know if this is a hostile approach." "First Contact Protocol suggests." "First Contact Protocol applies to discovered civilizations," Commander Zorik cut in. "This is an incursion with unknown intent from an uncharted region. We must assume hostile intent." Ilara knew better than to argue further, but something about this situation felt wrong. The approach was too direct, too deliberate. If it was an attack, why announce your presence so obviously? "Admiral," she said carefully, "request permission to take the Eternal Dawn ahead of the fleet. As the diplomatic flagship, we're best equipped for first contact if this isn't hostile." Zorik considered her for a moment, his reptilian eyes narrowing. "Very well, Commander, but you'll take a tactical escort, and at the first sign of aggression, you withdraw." 12 hours later, the Eternal Dawn hovered at the edge of the Krell expanse, a vast cloud of ionized gas that marked the unofficial boundary of Confederation space. The unknown vessel would arrive within the hour, and tension on the bridge had reached a breaking point. "Still no response to our hails," reported Communications Officer Tilara, her antennae twitching with frustration. "We've tried all standard frequencies and first contact protocols." Ilara studied the tactical display. The ship was now close enough for their long-range scanners to provide some details, and what they revealed was baffling. "It's small," she murmured. The vessel was perhaps a quarter the size of the Eternal Dawn, with a sleek, asymmetric design unlike anything in Confederation records. Its hull appeared to be composed of materials that absorbed rather than reflected their scanning beams, making detailed analysis difficult. "Commander," Lieutenant Krell's voice cracked with alarm. "The vessel is accelerating. It will reach our position in minutes." "Shields up," ordered Ilara, feeling her heart rate spike. "Alert the escort vessels. But hold fire unless I give the order." The bridge crew watched in tense silence as the unknown ship decelerated with impossible precision, coming to a relative stop just 10,000 kilometers from their position, close enough to be considered a challenge in space naval terms. "We're being scanned," reported Krell. It's an unusual frequency. Our systems can barely detect it." A moment later, the main view screen flickered, and Ilara felt her breath catch in her throat. The face that appeared wasn't what anyone had expected. It was human. The man had dark skin, close-cropped hair with streaks of silver at the temples, and eyes that seemed to evaluate everything they saw with careful precision. He wore what appeared to be a uniform of some kind, though not one Ilara recognized. "This is Captain Isaiah Chen of the Earth vessel Starshot," the human said, his voice clear and measured. "We come in peace and seek dialogue with the Galactic Confederation." Ilara found her voice, though her mind was racing with questions. "This is Commander Ilara Voss of the Confederation vessel Eternal Dawn. Captain Chen, we have no record of an Earth vessel with your specifications, nor authorization for your approach into Confederation space." The human's expression remained neutral, but his eyes reflected something. Amusement, perhaps. "That's not surprising, Commander. Earth hasn't had official contact with the Confederation in over 200 years. Not since the isolation protocol was enacted following the Arcturus incident." A murmur ran through the bridge. The Arcturus incident was ancient history, a disastrous first contact between humans and the Confederation that had led to the quarantine of Earth's solar system. According to official records, humans had chosen isolation rather than join the Confederation, and over the centuries, they had gradually been forgotten, relegated to a footnote in galactic history. "Captain," Ilara said carefully, "Earth is under quarantine by its own request. Your presence here violates multiple treaties." Chen's smile was small but unmistakable. "Treaties can change, Commander. Circumstances certainly have. We've been monitoring Confederation communications for decades. We know about the Nexus threat. We know what's coming from beyond the galactic rim. And we have technology that might help." Admiral Zorik stepped forward then, his imposing form filling the visual pickup. "What do you know of the Nexus threat?" "That information is classified at the highest levels." "Admiral Zorik," Chen acknowledged with a slight nod, "your encryption algorithms are impressive, but they're based on mathematical principles we surpassed a century ago. What matters isn't how we know, but what we can offer." Ilara watched the exchange with growing fascination. The Nexus threat was indeed the Confederation's most closely guarded secret. The detection of massive unidentified objects approaching from intergalactic space, with projected arrival in less than 5 years. The best Confederation scientists had no explanation for their nature or purpose, but the energy readings were off the charts and potentially catastrophic. "You claim to have technology that could help," Ilara said. "Yet your vessel, while impressive, doesn't appear to be a warship." "The Starshot isn't a warship, Commander," Chen agreed. "It's a diplomatic vessel, but it's powered by drive technology that could be adapted for your defense systems. And we have more to offer, if you're willing to listen." Admiral Zorik looked ready to object, but Ilara stepped forward. "Captain Chen, I propose a meeting. Your vessel is welcome to dock with the Eternal Dawn under diplomatic protocols." Chen nodded. "I accept your invitation, Commander Voss. But I should warn you, I'm not the only representative Earth has sent." As if on cue, the sensors chimed an alert. Lieutenant Krell looked up from his console, his skin now pulsing with rapid flashes of blue light. "Commander," he said, voice shaking slightly, "we're detecting multiple vessels emerging from FTL. They're using the same drive signature as the Starshot." The tactical display updated to show dozens, no, hundreds, of vessels appearing at the edge of sensor range. Ships of various sizes and configurations, all bearing the unmistakable hallmarks of human design philosophy. "Captain Chen," Ilara said, unable to keep the awe from her voice. "What is this?" "This, Commander," Chen replied calmly, "is the Earth Expeditionary Fleet. For 2 centuries, we've been preparing, building, learning. The quarantine wasn't just about isolation. It was about development, evolution. And now, we're ready to rejoin galactic society." Ilara looked at the display, at the hundreds of ships that had appeared as if from nowhere, and realized that everything the Confederation thought it knew about humanity was wrong. They hadn't withered in isolation. They had thrived. "Permission to come aboard, Commander?" Chen asked, a knowing glint in his eye. Admiral Zorik was conferring urgently with his staff, but Ilara made her decision. This moment was too important for bureaucracy or caution. "Permission granted, Captain," she said. "Welcome back to the stars." As arrangements were made for the historic meeting, Ilara couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these long-lost humans had in store, and whether the Confederation was ready for them. One thing was certain: the galaxy was about to change forever. First Contact Protocol. The diplomatic reception hall of the Eternal Dawn had never felt so tense. Commander Ilara Voss had ordered the space prepared according to First Contact Protocol, but the irony wasn't lost on her. This wasn't truly First Contact. It was a reunion 2 centuries in the making. "The diplomatic corps is in disarray," Admiral Zorik muttered as they waited for the human delegation to arrive. "High Command is demanding hourly updates. The Council of Seven wants to know how an entire fleet of unknown vessels appeared on our doorstep without warning. Perhaps we should focus on hearing what they have to say before we worry about the political fallout," Ilara suggested, adjusting the formal gray collar of her diplomatic uniform. The gesture earned her a stern look from the Admiral, but she held her ground. "Commander Voss," came the smooth voice of the ship's eye, "the human delegation has docked. Security scans detect no weapons or prohibited technology." Ilara raised an eyebrow at this. Standard protocol was to detect and catalog all technology, prohibited or otherwise. "Clarify, Dawn. What do you mean by detect no weapons?" There was a pause, unusual for the ship's advanced AI. "Their technology is difficult to classify, Commander. Most of their personal items register as unknown." Before Ilara could inquire further, the doors slid open. Captain Isaiah Chen entered first, followed by 4 others, 3 humans of varying ethnicities, and one figure that gave Ilara pause. It appeared humanoid, but its skin had a subtle metallic sheen, and its eyes glowed with a soft blue light. "Commander Voss," Chen said with a slight bow. "Thank you for your hospitality. Allow me to introduce my colleagues. Dr. Amara Okafor, our chief xenobiologist; Commander Raj Patel, tactical officer; Dr. Yuna Kim, our diplomatic liaison; and Nexus, our synthetic intelligence representative." Ilara managed to hide her shock at the last introduction. Synthetic intelligences with physical forms were strictly regulated throughout Confederation space due to the AI war centuries ago. Yet here was one, calmly walking among the human delegation as an equal. "Welcome aboard the Eternal Dawn," she said, stepping forward to perform the traditional Confederation greeting. A slight bow with open palms facing upward. "This is Admiral Zorik, commanding officer of the 9th Fleet, and our senior diplomatic staff." The meeting moved to a large conference table, where refreshments suitable for human physiology had been prepared based on old Confederation records. Ilara noticed with interest that Captain Chen politely declined any food or drink, instead focusing intently on the discussion. "Let's address the nebula-dwelling space whale in the room," Admiral Zorik began bluntly. 200 years of silence, and suddenly an entire fleet appears without warning at our borders. The Confederation has reason for concern. Dr. Kim, a woman with sharp eyes and an air of practiced calm, nodded. "We understand your perspective, Admiral. From your position, our arrival must seem provocative. However, I assure you our intentions are peaceful." "The isolation protocol was mutual," Chen added. "After the Arcturus incident, both Earth and the Confederation agreed that contact had been premature. We weren't ready for integration then." "And you believe you are now?" Ilara asked. "Necessity has accelerated our timeline," Dr. Okafor spoke up. Her voice carried a melodic accent Ilara couldn't place. "We've been monitoring deep space signals for decades. We know about the Nexus threat." Admiral Zorik leaned forward, scales bristling. "That information is classified at the highest levels. Even acknowledging its existence is a breach of Confederation security protocols." The synthetic being, Nexus, spoke for the first time, its voice surprisingly organic despite its artificial nature. Your encryption algorithms are based on quantum entanglement principles that became obsolete in human space approximately 73 years ago. We did not hack your systems. We simply observe. An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Ilara decided to change tactics. You mentioned technology that might help against the threat. What specifically are you offering? Captain Chen nodded to Commander Patel, who activated a small device on his wrist. A holographic display appeared above the table, a schematic of what appeared to be a propulsion system unlike any Ilara had ever seen. This is the gravitational inversion drive, Patel explained. It's what powers our ships. It doesn't just bend space. It inverts the gravitational constant within a localized field, essentially making the vessel fall in any direction we choose. Ilara studied the schematic with growing fascination. If this technology worked as described, it would revolutionize Confederation travel and defensive capabilities. The applications extend beyond propulsion, Chen continued. The principles could be adapted to create defensive barriers that would prevent the entities you call the Nexus threat from utilizing their own unique method of space travel. You know what they are, Ilara realized, studying Chen's expression. The human captain exchanged glances with his colleagues before nodding. We've encountered them before, or rather, they're scouts. 20 years ago, a small probe penetrated our outer detection grid in the Ta City colony. What we learned was concerning. Dr. Okafor picked up the narrative. They're called the Void Collective, not a species in the traditional sense, but a fusion of organic and technological components that functions as a singular consciousness. They don't invade. They absorb, convert, transform everything they encounter into extensions of themselves. Admiral Zoric's skepticism was evident. And you expect us to believe that humanity, isolated to a single star system, has technology capable of resisting this threat when the combined scientific minds of 17 advanced species do not? Isolation breeds innovation, Admiral, Chen replied calmly. Without the safety net of the Confederation, we had to develop rapidly or perish, and we weren't confined to a single star system. That was another misconception we allowed to persist. A new hologram appeared, showing a map of space extending far beyond Earth's solar system. Dozens of points of light indicated what could only be human colonies spread across what the Confederation had always considered uninhabitable or unremarkable systems. During our isolation, we expanded quietly, Chen explained. We terraformed worlds you dismissed as worthless, built habitats in systems you never bothered to explore thoroughly. We've spent 2 centuries preparing, not just for rejoining galactic society, but for what we knew was coming. Ilara's mind raced with the implications. If what the humans were saying was true, they had built an entire civilization in the shadows of the Confederation, developing technologies and capabilities that might now prove crucial to galactic survival. Why now? She asked. Why not contact us when you first detected the threat? We needed to be certain of our findings, Dr. Kim said. And frankly, Commander, we needed to be certain of you. The Confederation has changed since our isolation began. Not all changes have been for the better. Before Admiral Zoric could respond to this veiled criticism, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The bridge officer's voice came over the comm system, tight with urgency. Commander, unknown vessels have appeared at the edge of the system. They match no known configuration, and they're not responding to hails. The humans exchanged knowing glances. Captain Chen stood, his earlier diplomatic demeanor shifting to something harder, more martial. It's them, he said simply. Scouts for the main collective. They've arrived earlier than our projections suggested. How many vessels? Admiral Zoric demanded. 7, sir. They're deploying smaller craft, hundreds of them. Chen turned to Ilara. Commander, we need to integrate our fleet's defensive systems with yours immediately. The Void Collective's first tactic is always the same. They'll attempt to infect your systems with their convergent protocols. Ilara hesitated only for a moment before making her decision. Do it. Dawn. Authorize integration with human systems under Emergency Protocol 7. Commander, Zorik objected. This violates every security protocol we have. For all we know, this could be an elaborate human deception. With respect, Admiral, Ilara cut in. If they wanted to attack us, they could have done so when they arrived. We're facing an unknown threat, and they have experience with it. I'm making the call. The next 2 hours were a blur of activity. Human technical specialists beamed aboard, working alongside Confederation engineers to modify the Eternal Dawn's defensive systems. Ilara watched in amazement as Nexus interfaced directly with the ship's AI, its glowing eyes flickering rapidly as it created safeguards against the approaching threat. On the bridge, Captain Chen stood beside Ilara as they watched the tactical display. The unknown vessels, organic-looking constructs that seemed to pulse and shift like living tissue, had taken position at the system's edge. They're scanning us, Lieutenant Krell reported, attempting to breach our communication protocols. Standard collective procedure, Chen said. They'll try to establish whether we're worth assimilating or simply eliminating. How do we fight them? Ilara asked. We don't, not directly. Not yet. Chen nodded to Nexus, who had joined them on the bridge. We show them we're not easy prey. Nexus stepped forward, connecting to the communications array. Its eyes pulsed with increasing brightness as it broadcast a signal toward the alien vessels. What is it doing? Admiral Zorik demanded. Sending them a message they'll understand, Chen explained. A mathematical proof demonstrating that we understand their nature and have countermeasures in place. The collective operates on cold logic. They won't waste resources on a target that can defend itself if easier prey exists elsewhere. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, without warning, the alien vessels began to withdraw, folding back into whatever dimensional space they had emerged from. They're leaving. Admiral Zorik couldn't hide his disbelief. For now, Chen confirmed, but they'll return with greater numbers. This was only a reconnaissance force, testing our defenses. Ilara turned to face him fully, which means we have work to do. Indeed we do, Commander. Chen extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Humanity is ready to stand with the Confederation against what's coming. The question is, are you ready to stand with us? Ilara took his hand without hesitation. I believe we are, Captain. I believe we are. As the emergency subsided and the human delegation prepared to return to their vessel, Ilara found herself standing with Captain Chen at the observation deck, looking out at the stars and at the impressive formation of human ships beyond. 2 centuries ago, we thought we weren't ready for the stars, Chen said quietly. We were wrong. We just weren't ready for each other. Ilara nodded. And now? Now we face something that threatens us all. Something that can only be defeated together. He turned to her with a small smile. Your scientists will want to study our technology. Our diplomats will want to negotiate terms of alliance. It will be complicated, messy, probably contentious at times. First contacts usually are, she replied. Even second ones. Chen laughed, a surprisingly warm sound. Indeed. But I have hope, Commander Voss. For the first time in a very long while, I have hope for us all. As she watched him go, Ilara knew that the galaxy had changed forever. The isolation was over. Humanity had returned to the galactic stage, not as the primitive species the Confederation remembered, but as equals, perhaps even as saviors, and just in time.